And excuse it was just too pretty not to be outside, excuse the motorboat noises. Laying here, you find neutral. You feel your pelvis on the floor, on the surface, but you feel a little bit of lightness or curve away from the floor with your back, and then your ribs feel heavy down on the floor. As you exhale, sink your abdominals down, gently draw your low back into the mat, pelvic tilt or imprint, and as you inhale, release it back to neutral. Exhale, pull your abdominal muscles in, find that corseting or saran wrap feeling in towards the center of the body. And then inhale, the cylinder of your torso expands a bit three-dimensionally. One more like that, exhale. There is a little lift up of the pelvic floor, so there's no bearing down into the pelvis ever or bearing out into your abdominal muscles. And inhale. Go all the way through a hip roll. As you exhale, sink your abdominals down, tuck your hips under, engage your glutes, roll it up long, find your diagonal at the top, soften right below your throat, and articulate back down through your spine, all the way back down to that neutral. My heels were a little far away from me. I'm gonna bring them in a bit. Exhale. Inhale long at the top, exhale. Use your abdominals to find that controlled articulation all the way back down to your neutral. Last one. We're gonna stay up on this one. Arms reach up to the sky or the ceiling. Wrap your shoulder blades forward and go right into marching. Hips stay level. The narrower the feet, the easier, the less challenging. Still feels challenging. Let the thigh really just fold in the hip socket, so thigh arcs with this marching. 4, 3, finding the length and strength through your sideways, through your obliques. And then lower your hips 2 inches and press them back up. Lower and lift. Ribs stay inside the frame of the body. Arms up for more challenge. You can bring your arms back a little bit more to connect the upper abdominals deeper. Roll all the way down through your spine. Bring your hands by the side of your head. Reach your elbows to the sky so you're long through your triceps. Exhale, nod your chin towards your chest. Peel your head, neck, and shoulders up. Look towards your thighs. Lift in that same march. Set it down. So marching your thigh arcs. I love the name thigh arcs for this exercise because you really think about your thigh arcing through space rather than maybe the emphasis otherwise can be on kind of kicking the ankle or the foot up. So thigh arcs here. Ready to take it up, you go from the top down. Ready to take it up, you do reciprocal movement. Notice how my abdominals are pulling down flat rather than pushing up towards the ceiling. I've gone a little too deep in my curve. I've let my rectus abdominis take over here. I'm gonna pull back a little, draw down, find my pelvic floor connection, and flatten. And it's, you know, it's what's underneath whatever's going on there. Feel the muscles. You want the muscles to be even toned from side to side. And come down, hug your knees in, and go a little side to side. When you're really, no matter what, I was gonna say when you're first learning this work, but really no matter what, it's good to check yourself and to really get your hands in there and to feel what's going on. To the best of your ability, ignore whatever's on top of the muscle and see what the muscle's doing. So when you're in your deep core strength, you're looking for relatively even tone from the sides all the way through the rib attachments there and through the pelvis, through the front of the pelvis. So even muscle tone all the way from side waist to side waist, rather than feeling like there's kind of ridges of muscles with holes or gullies in between. And again, really get into what's going on with your musculature and trying to ignore, I know I don't have much, but trying to ignore whatever's on top of the muscles. All right, moving on. Let's go into variation, my favorite variation on single leg stretch. We'll start with without the thoracic flexion. Push your thighs into your hands and your hands into your thighs. If you can go deeper than 90 degrees at the hip, do it. Your psoas is gonna kick in then and really work on that deep hip flexor strength without dropping your low back, so without coming out of neutral. push, 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 push. And then start the single leg stretch. Release one arm and leg, and then bring it back into that push. Release and push. Switching from side to side, stability through your side waist. So there's a little bit of a tendency to want to kind of scrunch up on the side that's pushing, that's active in flexion. Make sure it stays nice and long through strong obliques. If you want to come up in flexion and continue the sequence, go for it. It might be helpful to kind of wing your elbows out to the sides. My arm was getting a little carried away. I would say keep your arm in your periphery. Otherwise, it's going to add more weight to your neck. It's going to kind of want to pull you back here. So if your arm, as it reaches, stays kind of bicep by cheek rather than getting by your ear back behind you. Let's do one more each side. Keep your legs up, interlace your hands behind your head. Curl up a little deeper in your thoracic. You're going to roll to one side, lengthen your legs and the top of your head away from each other. And I stopped on my side butt. I didn't go all the way on to my greater trochanter there, directly on the side, hips stacked. I stopped right between, to get technical, my greater trochanter and my sits bone, or my ischial tuberosity. And then from here, you're going to do little lifts of the legs. So a little tiny oblique work here, a little bit of lateral flexion through the spine, and then pull it back into center and go to the other side. Stop on your side butt. Don't stack your hips. Otherwise you won't be able to find much movement and it won't feel great on the hip bone. Bring it back in. One more each side. Lengthen the top of the head away from the feet. There's a tendency here to want to stay in flexion. Not great for the neck. And come back through center and switch. I'm doing about 4, 3, 2, 1. Center. Bring it all the way up to sitting. Flip on over. Find your plank. Ears right between the shoulders. And just shift back and forth a little bit. Stretch out your plantar fascia, the bottom of your feet. Stretch out your toes in extension there. Shoulder blades are wrapped forward, really strong, across the shoulder girdle. And then bend one knee and just tap it to the floor and bring it back up. And tap and lift. That lawnmower may be my cue to wrap up this workout. We're gonna finish with a little more lateral flexion, so make sure your feet are wide enough that you can shift to the side and lift into side plank. So you can just shift across the ball of the foot onto the sides of the feet and come into side bend through center. I said side bend, but we haven't actually added that yet. Side plank, rather. We'll add side bend on this one. Go down 3, 2, last one. Thanks.